Things that are suddenly too brand safe, too kid friendly are getting hit from the other direction. So everything on YouTube is being squeezed toward this middle ground. It's just gonna end up being like a mass of gray goo, bland, middle of the road, not interesting.
Is YouTube gonna become a mass of gray goo? Nah, dude, what are you talking about? Hey everybody, it's your friend and your guy and your favorite cult master, Gardiner the Linux Gamer. I don't even know what that one's about, man. This video is brought to you by my 126 amazing patrons, including the support of Glenn Steen. Glenn, my dude, your support is truly appreciated. If you like the work that I'm doing, if you believe in what I'm up to, hit that like button. It really helps the show out. You can also hit that subscribe button if you're into that. If you're not a big fan of YouTube, which this video is going to be all about YouTube, you can head over to LBRY, lbry.tv/@thelinuxgamer. Oh my goodness. So YouTubers kind of had a collective fit about a month ago with the whole COPPA thing that was rolled out on YouTube. And not everyone got that update last month. Well, it turns out on Monday, that update for COPPA compliance in the YouTube Creator Studio went live for everyone globally. They said that they expect children's content creation to experience significant impacts. So the question is, what does this mean? What is COPPA? And is this really the death of YouTube that everybody seems to be saying it is? Let's talk about it. COPPA, or the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, is a federal law in the United States. It's meant to safeguard children's data online from advertisers and other malicious entities. COPPA makes it illegal for services online to collect data about children under the age of 13 without their parents' consent. It's why websites often require you to be 13 years or older in order to sign up to use their services, and it's how these services abdicate their responsibility of protecting children's online data. But here's the thing. We need stuff like COPPA. We need strong legal protections in place in order to prevent feckless corporations from using your data and exploiting it. We need strong data protection, not just for children, but for everyone on the internet. COPPA is just the first of many legislative measures meant to remedy the problem of online data exploitation. So what is going on with this? What actually happened? Well, back in September, YouTube actually settled a dispute with the FTC where they paid something like, $170 million to the FTC in fines because they violated COPPA. I hear what you're saying, but Gardiner, laws are old-fashioned. We don't need laws. Now, I get it. I mean, I understand that, you know, it feels good to nod your head vigorously and feel like a superior Rick when you see clips like this.
According to the Act, you can only collect data on kids if you get a parent's permission through methods such as having parents sign a consent form returned to the operator of the website by postal mail or facsimile, a toll-free number that parents could call, and or an email accompanied by a valid digital signature. Sign a consent form for the internet and then fax it in to the good people who are working at YouTube. It's not YouTube's job to babysit their children. Or at least that should be the argument that's happening here.
Good Lord, I am a libertarian. But honestly, this law, despite how awkwardly it's worded, is necessary. Even MattPat in his own video admits that children are far more susceptible to advertising than any other group of people.
The idea is that children are impressionable, and they can't distinguish ads from regular content, so it's unfair and unethical to advertise to them. And this principle isn't wrong by any means. It's actually been proven time and again by science.
And we'll talk about why YouTube's advertising is even more pernicious than any other type later on in the video. But the facts are pretty clear here. It's illegal to collect information about children under the age of 13 without their parents' consent. And despite the whole, you gotta be 13 to sign up and use YouTube, guys, YouTube has willfully collected the information of people who watch videos aimed at children under the age of 13. And by doing so, there's no chance in hell that they didn't actually collect information about kids. We don't actually have to even infer through like logic that YouTube did this. They admitted it themselves.
It's the #1 place for kids' online content. YouTube is today's leader in reaching children ages 6 to 11. YouTube is unanimously voted the #1 website visited for kids. It just keeps going and going. Come on, YouTube!
You would have gotten away with it too if you hadn't admitted it.
So yeah, YouTube knowingly broke the law, and by paying these fines and settling here, they basically admitted all but wrongdoing. Oh yeah, and they also agreed to rectify this problem so they don't get fined again. And this is where MattPat here has an issue.
YouTube's settlement involves them agreeing to take action to separate advertisers from kids' content on the platform. Anything labeled as kids' content on YouTube, therefore, will lose what are known as targeted ads starting January 1st, 2020. It's unclear how much of a typical YouTuber's ad revenue comes from targeted ads, but from our research, it seems to be between 80 and 90%, meaning that if a creator is losing targeted ads on their video, they lose up to 90% of their ad revenue.
Before I went full-time on this here YouTube channel, and if you want to help support the show, you can head over to Patreon, it all helps. I actually worked for a small business, and I was in charge of most everything that involved a computer. I had to do a lot of social media marketing at my job, and that included buying advertising from Google and Facebook. And you know, I learned a lot about those advertising networks. You can target people in some of the worst and creepiest ways. You can make precisely curated audiences for your ads through any of these networks. I mean, on Facebook's advertising network, you can create a hyper-specific audience of employed men aged 28 to 35 who own a home and make $75,000 a year or more. How do they know that kind of stuff? It's because they track everything you do. And the same goes for Google's ad network. You can do the same stuff on Google's ad network. These advertising companies collect so much information about you, it's scary. Not only do they track everything you do on the web, but the big guy like Google has a microphone in your pocket right now. They're listening to everything you do. They're tracking everywhere you go. They know what your morning commute is. They've also, in all likelihood, corroborated public records with your Google account. They know if you're married. They know where you live. They know how much money you owe on your car. They know how many children you have. They know how often you go for walks, and I wouldn't be surprised if they even knew how often you have nightmares. Now, YouTube's ad model is based on Google AdSense, and as we've all seen, Google is the king of privacy invasion. And, you know, unfortunately, on YouTube, that's the game that you play. In exchange for having the biggest audience on YouTube and the best discoverability, you trade your privacy. And that sucks. There have been many people who have rightfully criticized the fact that I am a privacy advocate who is using YouTube as a platform, because YouTube is pretty bad for privacy. That is a fair criticism. There are things you can do to ameliorate that situation. You can use an ad blocking extension. You can use a privacy extension. You can even use YouTube Premium, but they're probably still tracking everything you do on the platform. But I don't know if that's really in the scope of this video. The reason that Google collects all this information about you is so that they can sell it. Sell it to companies that want to advertise to you. These are advertisers who want to target men who are desperately single and need companionship, or advertisers who want to target women that are known to be insecure about their weight so they can be sold snake oil. Now, not all advertising is bad, obviously, and there are some companies that use this for good, but the fact of the matter is, there's no need for this. Now, YouTube is part of Google's ad network. YouTube and Google make the vast majority of their revenue through advertising. Ads from companies that want to use creepy levels of targeting to extract water from stones. None of this is necessary. There are ethical ways to run advertisements, and there are ethical ways of tracking behavior on the web, too. But Google and YouTube don't do that. So now YouTube is punishing us.
The problem now is that every channel on YouTube has to self-identify whether or not they believe that their videos are attractive to kids before January 2020. I feel nervous about this, right? Because we talk about Pokemon and Minecraft and Nintendo properties, stuff that kids like to watch.
Honestly, he kind of has a point here. YouTube has kind of cornered itself by breaking the law. And so the platform is going to be removing the ability for kids' content to have targeted advertising on it, because targeting ads at children is illegal. And according to MattPat, that could be up to 90% of these channels' revenue. If they're targeting kids with their content, 90% of their revenue could be wiped out overnight. And yeah, I feel bad for these YouTube channels. I really do. These people made a living on the promise of ad revenue from Google. But you can't blame the FTC for this. You have to blame Google for this. You have to blame YouTube for this. YouTube is the one that was breaking the law. YouTube was selling advertisements on children's content and collecting information and targeting kids with these ads. That's illegal, but more importantly, it's unethical. But you know what? It's not like kids' content is going to go anywhere. And it's not like advertisers will just stop wanting to advertise to kids. And while targeted ads are going to be removed from kids' content, I think this has the potential to profoundly and positively impact YouTube's business model and advertising online in general. Google has stopped collecting information about anyone who's watching kids-oriented content, and that's a good thing. But you know, there will probably still be ads running on these videos. Google's a business after all. So just because these aren't targeted ads doesn't mean that you're going to lose money. And because this is happening across the board, that's probably going to mean that the most effective way to target kids with ads is just to target the content and not to use the hyper-specific data that Google collected about people. So YouTube is requiring all of us to answer the question of, is your content made for kids? My videos are made for late 20-something IT neckbeards like myself, so I answered the question accordingly. But because there are so many YouTube channels aimed at kids, and because this has the potential to cut their revenue by 90%, I can understand the uncertainty and the fear.
They're very adamant that they're not giving legal advice to help anyone categorize their content, and it kind of makes sense. If YouTube did offer that advice to creators, and the FTC disagreed with that ruling for whatever reason, YouTube would be the one legally responsible. So as long as YouTube doesn't make that decision, they can stand aside, look the other way if, you know, the FTC decides to bring the hammer down on a couple of channels to make an example out of anyone.
Yeah, see, the problem here is that as a YouTube channel, you're not collecting information about the people watching your videos. They're not going to bring the hammer down on individual YouTubers. He does have a point in that the FTC has gone after individual YouTubers in the past. But that's because those individual YouTubers broke laws. Like, for example, you have to disclose right at the top of your video and above the fold in the description if your video is sponsored. You have to do that. It is the law. So when the FTC has gone after these individual channels, it's because they broke the law. And I feel like it's disingenuous to portray the FTC as just wanting to ruin YouTubers. That's wrong, man.
In this case, we all need to work together to be advocates for not just our favorite creators, but the platform that we exist on.
I couldn't agree more. YouTube needs to stand up and do the right thing here. The fact is, YouTube, and by extension Google, really need to grow a spine and change their practices here. They need to grant all people the level of privacy that COPPA affords to children. It would fundamentally change the advertising game on the internet. Instead of ad networks stalking you everywhere you go and collecting wanton amounts of information about you without your knowledge or explicit consent, and instead of allowing advertisers to capitalize on that data in order to harass and assault you online, if the privacy we afforded to children were expanded to all people on the internet, well then we would all have no choice but to move to a more ethical approach. I think that laws like COPPA are, on the whole, a good thing. First, because it provides real-world constraints on a company like Facebook or Google. While unscrupulous networks enable predatory advertisers to creep on adults on the web, COPPA gives the FTC the ability to act on behalf of people who can't act for themselves. Because really, children are too impressionable to be marketed to in such a way. And the other reason that I like COPPA is that it sets an expectation for privacy. I mean, right now, we are talking about privacy. That's what COPPA is about. And I think that we can nudge this conversation in a positive direction. I believe that COPPA, GDPR, and CCPA, while they are by no means perfect, are a net positive for humanity. And while these laws may make it harder for some people to make money the way they're used to making money, if we can make the world a better place by giving agencies and law enforcement the teeth they need to act in the public interest, I think we should do it. Well, that's my video. I know that there are going to be some people who vehemently disagree with what I have to say, but you know what? I think that privacy is one of the most important ingredients to having a free and democratic society, and I believe that privacy must be protected. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Again, if you're into privacy, check out LBRY. They don't sell ads on their site, so go over and check them out. That's gonna do it for this video. If you believe in the work that I do, you can support this show with a monthly contribution on Patreon. You can also pick up a t-shirt, there's a link in the description. But no matter what you do, whether you hit that like button or share this video with your friends, don't forget to subscribe to see more from me, the Linux Gamer. And as always, thanks for watching.